Welcome to the ARC Hive Podcast, where we explore the arcs of our individual journeys and the strength of the hive that holds us together. I'm Amy Rost, and I believe that life isn't meant to be navigated alone. Here, we dive into conversations that bring us closer to ourselves, to each other, and to the communities that lift us up. This is a space for real stories, honest reflections, and meaningful connections. Whether you're in a season of transition, seeking deeper relationships, or simply craving conversations that inspire growth, the Hive is for you. Because when we come together, we grow stronger. Welcome to the ARC Hive Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I am super excited for today's conversation. Today, I have with me Jillian Gable. Hey, Jill.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
So good. And I am so excited to dive into our conversation because I think women and moms really need to hear this story. So, for those of you who don't know Jillian, she's an artist, a community builder, and the heart behind the Creative Haven here in Cochrane. She's going to share her journey, her creative journey, how it transformed her life, and how she is now empowering others to explore creativity as a powerful tool for healing, self-awareness, and connection. From nervous system regulation to increased confidence and joy, Jillian believes creativity isn't a hobby, it's essential for our well-being. I agree 100%. We're going to explore what happens when we give ourselves permission to create, connect, and show up as we are. So that might be a new topic to some people, right? They might not have ever thought about creativity. And I think, so let's get into it, Jill. Let's dive into what's been your journey? How did you get to the Creative Haven?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today, too. I get excited about this. Okay. How did I get here? So, you have this concept of the arc, going from one point to another. I would say my arc was more like a wiggly path all over the place, not an arc at all. But yeah, I started off, as a child, I was a very creative person, very artistic. I loved to create, and I did it just for fun. Hours would pass and I wouldn't even notice. I'd forget to eat, that kind of a thing. I loved it that much. And then, of course, as we get older, we get into high school, university, careers, then you get married, you have kids. I just at some point kind of let it fall away. It wasn't a priority for me anymore. And I pursued a degree in finance in university. Ended up in a banking career for my first job out of school. And then went on to get married and have children. And it wasn't until right around COVID. COVID happened. We were in lockdown. I was anxious and depressed and didn't know what was happening in the world and found it had all. What's that?
All the things that were happening around us in that time.
Yeah, right. It was a crazy time. I'm sure we can all agree on that. But it was also a time that we had all of this time, right? To just do nothing. We were forced to do nothing. And I think what happened for me was it really kind of exposed some things that I'd been ignoring for a long time. Yes, I was having anxiety about the pandemic, but I had also realized it was almost like a midlife crisis. What am I doing? What is that my meaning in life? And you have your family and everything. There's always meaning, right? But I had just realized that I'd totally lost kind of my core essence. Who was I if I wasn't being a mother or a wife or a daughter,
Or working that finance job?
Oof, well, yes. Thankfully, I didn't ever have to go back to that after I had children. I
Yeah,
knew I did know that that was not for me.
yeah.
Like right away, I knew that was not for me. But you do these things because you feel like you should, right?
100%. And okay, let's just pause with that because I think the should is so much defines what we do. And I think, with with age comes a little bit of wisdom, right? Like if I'm doing all the shoulds for everyone else, I am not taking care of myself. I am giving a piece of myself away. And that's what kind of it sounds like for you. It was those shoulds. And is that where it started to really like spark that, the power of creativity that was missing in your life? Is that where it really started?
I think so. I mean, I started painting in the pandemic because I just didn't know what else to do. And I thought, I haven't done this. I'm going to try it. And um like first of all, I realized it was just like really relaxing. It was time to just do my own thing. And so right off the get-go, it was like I started to feel myself coming out of that like fight or flight response, right? But
Yeah.
as I
Which we
kept,
were all in like on steroids at that time, right?
yes,
And
yes,
I think let's talk about that a little bit more because I think, really help our listeners understand how art really helps start to regulate that nervous system for you because that I think we don't always put those two pieces together, but you just explained that so beautifully. But how did it could so you felt it? Were there other things that showed up for you like that you were like, "Oh, this is changing me like at the core."
totally, yes.
Uh,
So I remember at some point during the pandemic. So I was just painting and just finding it really relaxing. And like my husband was noticing, like, you just seem a lot more relaxed, right? Um, but I don't know if it was divine timing or just really good targeted ads or what, but at the time I came across a woman named Whitney Freya who was offering this creatively fit coaching certification. And when I saw that, I was like, what is this, right? And she had kind of talked about like how painting can be a form of meditation and how it can be used to transform your life, right? And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, what is this? So I enrolled, and that's when everything changed for me. Like, I realized that painting is an active form of meditation. I have never had great luck with just sitting and trying to just not think.
right?
Right? Like my brain's going like this.
Yeah. That's why like people like me like Pilates because that actually stops. We have to think too much. We can't be bing 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 bing. So I get that. Like that sitting just in silence is really hard, but it is a form of meditation.
And much like Pilates, it's an embodied form of meditation, right? It's a somatic experience, right? So you're not just you're not just quieting your thoughts, but you're activating your body. You're noticing what's happening in your body. Like it's just a whole new level of awareness, right? Whenever you get the body involved.
100%.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really found that as I was painting, so this woman, what she taught was that, our world is primarily ruled right now by the left brain, which is your logical, um, fear based fear based brain, right? And her whole premise was like, if you start to paint in this intuitive type way, um, it's an exploration and it activates that right brain center, which is where creativity, intuition, and kind of your connection to your higher self resides, right?
I love
So I know it's amazing. You think, oh, I'm just painting, I'm just putting color on paper, but it's not, right? Like it leads to this self awareness and And I found it was forcing me to like try facing things on the canvas that could then be translated to life, right?
Oh, that is so good. And I think, I do business coaching and whatnot as well. And I always teach that creativity is really one of our superpowers. And if we are so busy and we are not leaving time for rest and restoration, we don't get to the dream, whatever that can be. Like that is creativity, is what do I want and what could that look like? And I think we don't need to lose that creativity, right? We actually should nurture it. We all, because we use creativity in like many more ways than we actually think, right? Like creativity comes in, it can come in teaching Pilates, it could come in creating social media, it can come in, creating networks, like all these things. And I think it's often forgotten and it's not often talked about. And it really is, it's that expression of who we are,
Yes,
right?
it is. Absolutely. And I feel as a society that we kind of downplay
I agree.
the importance of creativity. Like creativity is everything. It's problem solving, right? And it's self-expression, like you said. We're born creative, like babies. The first things that they do, they dance, they play, they use their imagination. And it's over time that we get all of this conditioning and going back to like the shoulds and the musts. All of that, those layers build up over time and slowly try to direct us towards being the same as everyone else and being in conformity, right? And doing what boring. Totally. It's so boring. And so if you're feeling like you're in that like rat race, like every day is the same. What am I doing every day? Like I'm going to work, I'm coming home, like it just feels like Groundhog Day over and over again. It's probably because you haven't given yourself, like you said, that space to just like play, to imagine, to daydream, right? Like that's where the magic is. And we need more of that now than ever,
100%.
right?
So we've gone through like from finance to now this intuitive, is it intuitive health coach? Is that what it was called?
Her program was called a Creatively Fit Coach.
Creatively fit coach.
Yeah. So it's
And
like working out that creative muscle. You're
yeah,
fit creatively.
it's like that's, and I love that analogy, because it's just like movement. Muscles need to be worked. Creativity is a muscle. Muscle has memory. That stuff does come back to us. And I think like as we get so serious, we lose that joy of that creativity. And I think like when you bring it back in, it sparks a little bit of like, that's what I get up for in the morning, is to be creative and think and try things in a new way.
Totally.
So you've gone from that. Now let's talk a little bit about the community you've built behind this, because I think
Mhm.
this is a really powerful part of this story. So you've got the Creative Haven here in Cochrane, which is a beautiful space that really supports our community here in our little hometown. It's not so little, but we call it our little hometown.
Yeah.
Like, tell me a little more about the vision behind the Creative Haven.
Okay. Well, um, I'm going to make this a long story as I always do, but the Creative Haven was actually not even on my radar. I was not looking to have my own space. Like there was no way I was thinking about taking out a commercial lease. Like this was not on my radar at all. But if I can go back a little bit to the whole like painting, like coming back to painting and creativity, and that whole self-awareness piece, what started happening was I started uncovering all of these layers of myself. And I started kind of using symbols and colors and imagery to kind of explore what was going on inside, right? And what I found I was able to do was start peeling back these layers of like limiting beliefs and um, negative self-talk. I was meeting my inner critic every day at the canvas and learning how to um, quiet that inner critic. I was meeting that perfectionist every day at the canvas and really like we said, like practicing that, like building that muscle of being like, I don't have to be perfect, it's okay, right? And as all of these things are stripping away, like I didn't really even like, I can't say I was super conscious of it at the time. But as I was peeling back those layers, like things just started to come into my life that were
I love,
so aligned,
I
right?
love it.
Yeah, like they just started plopping into my lap almost, right? It's like when you come into alignment with what you are here to do and what is authentic to you, it becomes almost effortless, right?
That is when we are in that, like, in that genius zone, it is the world presents the right opportunities to you. If
Every
I
time.
if I get out of that alignment, I say yes to things that I shouldn't be saying yes to. And
Yeah,
it's when we are so clear of who we are and what we are here to do and serve, the gifts we have to share, those, like, you couldn't have written a better story about how it actually like works, that just it starts to call you to a space or to something that you never even thought was possible, but really was waiting for you to be in the right space and the right time, and that opportunity came to you. I love it.
absolutely. Yeah, it's just again, it's like divine timing or something because I had started offering workshops, and I was doing it in, restaurants and that kind of a thing. And I had actually started renting this space from someone else at the time. Um, and at one point, she had just said to me, I'm not going to continue my lease when it comes up, but I was wondering, like, would you want to take over the space and I would lease from, like, rent from you? And at that moment, I was like, initially I was like, no, like, no, that's not the plan. And as I thought about it, I was like, wait a second, right? And it was interesting to observe, like right away, all of the fear came in, right? Like, well, that would be a huge commitment. I don't know if I can make enough money to cover that. How would that all work? Like, I have no idea. When I decided to lean into like, okay, this is presenting itself. Yes, it's scary, it's a new thing, but it's totally aligned. And like I felt expansion when I thought about it. I thought I have to go with this. And you know how they say, like, you don't need to know the how,
100%.
right? So it was kind of like one of those, like, this just came in front of me. Like I had to do it, right?
Well, you
Um,
don't need
yeah,
to know the how, you just need to know the why. We can figure out the how. There's so many resources available to us for that, to figure out the how. People have done the how a million times. But again, when we're clear about the why, then everything else is we can figure it out. We can figure it out.
totally.
Uh,
And yeah, and then like so the whole idea with the space was I thought like, okay, I'm not going to be teaching workshops every day. Um, I was like, it's this beautiful space. I feel good in this space. So I thought, why wouldn't we make this a space of community where other people could gather and we could do all kinds of wellness things in this space, right? So it actually turned out that was sort of the how, but I
yeah.
didn't know that at the time, right? So it all just kind of came together and I was just doing my first quarter review because I've only been open for 3 months now, but I just did my first quarter review and we had um, over like almost 300 people go through that space in 3 months. So think of all the connection that happened.
All that connection that happened in the first 3 months,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah,
just want to back up and I want to get back to community, but I do want to back up just a little bit and talking to that fear piece because that is often the mind plays so many tricks on us that I can't do this. It's not the right time. who am I to take over a lease? Or you have all these thoughts that we actually have to pause because they aren't always true. Fear has a real sneaky way of like talking you out of anything. And I always look at it as like, okay, let this fear talk me into it. And
Yes.
if it can talk me into it, then I'm probably a little scared. But I'm seeing that this is that fear talking to me, and I'm making a choice to say, I see you, but I'm going to walk right past you and we're going to figure this out. So, because I think that that often paralyzes so many people from taking the leap or taking that, saying that yes. And, you know, fear isn't always true. So make sure we've actually spent some time discerning whether, is that thought actually true? And okay, what if that happens? What if? Can I figure it out? Probably. And look at what you've been able to create. So I'm so glad you said yes and like walked right through that fear,
Yes.
pushed it right out of the way.
Yeah. Bulldozed it.
Bulldozed it. So let's talk about this hub now for our community, which it is a beautiful space, and it is, I think, for those of anyone listening in Cochrane area, it's a beautiful space for all kinds of different practitioners. Can you share a little bit about the different practitioners that you've had through the doors in this first quarter?
Yeah, it's been so amazing to see. Like, I can't believe just the number of people that I've met just because of this space, right? So we've held all kinds of workshops in there. We've got other art workshops going on. We had pottery workshops. We just had our first sound bath in there.
Oh, we got to
Lots
get
of
to that.
I know it was so like I didn't actually attend the whole thing, but I was there for the setup and like the sound was so beautiful. What else have we had in there? We've had different information sessions on some different like healing modalities. Um, we've had women's networking events in there, vision board workshops. Yeah, like the possibilities are endless. And, it's just nice because someone goes and does one thing and then they realize, oh, these other things are being offered here. And like, I sense that it's going to be a place where people really make a lot of connections and are safe to show up as they are. They can be vulnerable. They can um, just be themselves and be accepted there. So,
Yeah, and it's, I think these types of spaces are so important to a community. And in one, just like accessibility, like not everyone needs like a massive space, where they need a space that's more intimate and can really, grow those connections, and that, like you said, really a safe space where they can grow trust in those spaces.
mhm,
And they've really become, like you said, a place where people do, the connections you make, but also the connections that the people coming through the doors start to make to each other is, I always say, is a really, it's a great privilege as a business owner to see that as it happens, because they take that experience they've had in your business, and then they take that back to their communities, back to their, to their kids and to their families and to their work, and they get them their best selves. And that fact that we can cultivate a place that creates that is really, really a privilege. Um,
really is. Yeah,
and I think like with that piece of it also being a place where, we're sparking more creativity in individuals, because all of those modalities have an opportunity for creativity, right?
yeah,
It's not a black and white world anymore. We get out of that sort of grind and get, like you said, open up that other side of our minds to bigger possibilities or something different. And
absolutely.
I think it's so important. So important.
Me
So
too.
let's chat a little bit about like, can you bust through maybe a few myths about artists and art?
Sure. Yes, I can. Uh, well, okay, there's definitely that myth, I don't know, belief held by a lot of people that I am not creative. And that one is for sure like
Busted.
not true. Busted.
Bulldoze that one.
Yeah, totally. You're born creative, and everything is creative, right? Like if you think of the definition of create, it's to manifest something into form that didn't exist before. So um, if you have children, you've created a family. If you made dinner, you created a meal that didn't exist before. Like creativity can be woven into all areas of life. So it's not just like just because you don't paint or just because you don't write poetry doesn't mean you're not creative. We're all creative, right?
100%.
Um, Another one is like art has to be pretty, or my painting has to be worth something. It has to be something that I can sell or have value. And this is one that like I have to work with people a lot on is like it actually it's about the process, right? So if you can kind of get over that idea of like this has to turn out to be something beautiful, or something that I could sell, like it doesn't matter. You know, I have to tell people all the time, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's what you learn about yourself and what you experience throughout the process, right? But it's so hard to get over that hump. We're so
100%.
conditioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
And then it has to like we have to like produce something that is for others
Yeah,
instead of could I not just make it for me? What if we shifted that? What would happen?
absolutely. Yeah, like even we're even people pleasing as we're painting on a piece of paper that you could just rip up and throw in the garbage after. Like it really is not life and death, but we're always like, well, what are people going to think of this? Like
Yeah.
it's so fascinating to see how we view, you know, the creative process, but how that also translates to just like how we approach life in general. What are
And
people going to think
how
of this?
how we see ourselves, right?
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
totally.
Well, and I love that. Like creativity isn't about making something perfect. It's about making space to feel something real. Like
Yes,
I feel like when we weave them in and I creativity is really to business owners, really think about what your creative piece, what are you bringing to your business in that creative piece? And I also challenge that like in parenting. What you got to be
yeah,
one step ahead of those teenagers. Like you better get creative. We can say that because we both have teenagers,
yes, yes. We're living through that phase right now.
right? But there does require some creativity, right? Like, and when you give yourself that permission, I think, you may discover you spark a whole new side of yourself and create more joy because it isn't the monotony of every day,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
Well, I really think everyone needs to dive into creativity more. Jill, how can they connect with you or and the Creative Haven? Where's the best way to find you?
The best place to find me, you can visit my website. It's www.jilliangcreativity.com. So the Creative Haven is under there, as well as any workshops that I'm offering. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram under the handle Jillian G Creativity or the Creative Haven Cochrane, I think it is. So
We're going to
yeah,
put all of this in the show notes so everybody go about to find you there. And, I think for our listeners, maybe a little call to action is so if our listeners had just 10 minutes today to do something creative, what would you recommend?
oh gosh. I mean, it could be anything. If we're talking like art, you could literally just take some paints or crayons, like steal them from your kids, whatever, and just play with color and see which colors resonate with you. Just start slapping them on a piece of paper. See how you feel. But it doesn't have to, you don't even have to do anything that's artistic per se. You could attempt a new route home from work. You could just like be sitting in your car and say, I'm going to ask my intuition. Like I'm going to lean into my gut feeling and just be like, should I turn right or left here? And just practice like going with that gut feeling and see what happens, right? The stakes are low. If you have time, you don't have to be home at a specific time. See where that takes you. You might end up like, you never know what could happen. You might stumble upon an awesome bookstore or something that you didn't
Right?
know existed, or you might run into someone that you haven't seen, or you might spot some sort of crazy animal sighting. Like you just never know. So
100%.
you can do anything.
And then I think just simply notice what it inspires or sparks in you, right? The important piece too is notice. Don't just rush through it. Notice. Take a minute and notice. How does it feel? What did you discover? Did it inspire? And you never know what's around the next corner.
Absolutely. So true.
Thank you, Jill, so much for joining us and having this conversation. I think it is so important for all of us to be reminded and give ourselves permission to be creative beings. We were meant to do that. We did it as kids. Let's not lose it as we age because there's way more creativity to tap into.
Totally. And life is way more fun when you embrace creativity, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being part of the ARC Hive today. I hope this episode has left you feeling inspired, connected, and reminded that you are never alone on this journey. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts, share your takeaways, tag me on social media, and let's keep this hive buzzing. And don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a review, and invite someone you care about to join us. Until next time, keep honoring your arcs, leaning into the hive, and showing up for yourself and your community because together we are stronger. This is the ARC Hive Podcast. See you soon.